guys. Welcome back. This is another episode of Coffee Break with Melissa. I'm your host, Melissa, and I'm joined by Mr. Sean here at LSSI in Rockford. Sean, can you tell us what you do and how your day is going?
Yeah. So I'm a counselor here at LSSI, and I'm also a counselor in private practice. And my day's going okay so far.
Yay, good.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a caramel iced coffee with
Ooh.
espresso.
Oh, nice. Do you like it?
I love it. It's
turned
very
out
good.
Oh,
It turned out very
nice.
good.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay, yay. I didn't make it myself, but Phil, who had to step out, made it. And then since he couldn't be here for this recording, I was like, hey, well, can you make it? Or can you tell me how to not mess it up? So I'm glad it turned out well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to come over for some more.
No
This is
thanks to
good.
me, but I'm going to find out the recipe because I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Good. And I'm having mushroom coffee. Not espresso, but just mushroom coffee. It's not a latte. It's got just a splash of regular cream and one Splenda. I like to be thorough like that. And it turned out really good.
You like mushroom coffee?
Yeah, I do.
I've never tried it.
Oh, I got to bring you some.
Okay, we can
Yeah,
try
it's
it
really
sometime.
good. It has, if you make it like if you steam the milk, it's different than the way I have it today. And there's actual like mushroom lattes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
This is not a mushroom latte, but it's still
good.
It's still smooth. It's well balanced, and I got to
Okay.
find some better coffee words because that's a whole vocabulary and a
Yes,
language.
it is.
I'll get there, you guys. Bear with me. Okay, so covered the coffee. Is that your favorite drink, or like you were a latte guy too, right? You were
Yeah.
on the fence between.
Yeah, really anything coffee.
Okay.
That or I am very, very bad about drinking Cokes from McDonald's. That is my addiction
Oh,
that I'm
nice.
trying to get away from.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
I used to get Cokes, Diet Cokes, like the large, and
Yep.
at like 8 a.m.
Mhm.
It's a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a thing for sure.
Oh, okay. We can go on and on about beverages.
Yeah.
So, Sean, what's your favorite thing about LSSI?
Ooh, my favorite thing about LSSI. I'd say it's just the people who work here, and of course, getting to help the clients that I work with, especially working with the kids. But um, I have to say the people who work here, because been here almost 6.5 years, and in various roles, and every team that I've been on, I've had a really good team, really good colleagues that I've worked with. Everyone seems very supportive, and anything that you are confused about or lost about or don't know about, usually you can go to somebody and find somebody to help you out.
Yeah, and thank you. And speaking of several roles, that's
Yeah.
a fun fact about you is that
Yeah.
I took over your role.
You did.
We were part of a same
Yes,
team,
we
a
were.
sub team here in licensing.
Yep.
I gotta say, you were really, really good at that job.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate that.
big shoes to fill that I don't think I've filled. But
Well,
here
I'm sure you have.
I'm still here. You know. So yeah. So you did licensing, and then you.
So I started here actually as a caseworker, and then moved to licensing as I was finishing my degree in mental health counseling, and then moved over to the clinical department and got into counseling.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's so needed. Like, I mean, all roles are important, but is something in particular that drew you to mental health as, your chosen field?
Honestly, so I started out studying architecture, and it was around my junior year of my bachelor's degree that I just wasn't feeling like that was what I was meant to do for a lifelong career. And so I just kind of really started to think about what was really important to me. And for really most of my life at that point, I had done a lot of volunteering, working with kids, working with different people, and just with different organizations,
Mhm.
and um, that just stood out as something that I really valued was helping people and working with people. And along with working with the Career Center at my university, kind of narrowed it down to counseling just made sense.
Okay.
So, yeah.
No, that's wonderful. We're glad you chose that,
Me too.
because our field in particular needs professionals with those skills. Um, I mean, mental health is one of the one of the reasons that kids end up coming into care because
Hmm.
of
Yep.
that being a struggle with the adults.
Yep.
And
Hmm.
so, um, are you able to? Are you okay with like telling us like what does that look like? How do kids? What are they like? The kids that you see, like how has trauma or neglect impacted their mental health, and like how does that show up in their day to day life that you help them with?
Yeah. I mean, for most kids, it's pretty common, especially kids in foster care, to see just a lot of struggles in terms of behavior and regulating their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's usually a lot of issues around attachment and things like that because, um, as you stated, a lot of times that's happening with their parents, right? That parents are struggling with mental health issues um, that do tend to be generational, and
Yes.
it just gets carried on, right? If they don't have access to the help that they need or they're not getting the help that they need. And so then we kind of start to see that repeat. And so oftentimes the kids that are coming in the care are not receiving that proper attachment and that, the way that you would expect to be raised as a child, right? That love and affection isn't always there. Um, and they're missing that. And then of course add on whatever trauma, right, that they're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just adds to that.
Yeah, and I found that um, I bet part of your role is like helping kids attach and all that, or it's so hard to like realize like the parents um, may have had and felt all the love and so much care, but that mental health
Yep.
just is like such a got in the way
Hmm.
of being able to show it.
Right. Absolutely.
And we find that hand in hand, oftentimes with mental health, is substance
Yep. Hmm.
abuse or misuse or
Yes.
dependency. All
Hmm.
you can call it many things, but um, have you found it where um, people use substances to self-medicate
Oh
on the
yeah.
mental health?
Oh
And
yeah.
so these are
Absolutely. Hmm.
often co-occurring like diagnosis,
Hmm. Yeah.
struggles.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Absolutely. Hmm.
yeah, and I know from like just working in different like roles where it's like it's hard to um, treat one thing when you got like treatment for mental health is hard to um, be successful, or it's a little bit more challenging when there's like an active like um, substance.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
how do you get the substance um, misuse or dependency under control so that the mental health can work? So
Right.
it's so
Hmm.
true. So,
Yeah.
but um, we do see success stories though.
We do. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of success stories. Thankfully.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
What does that
Hmm.
look like? Like, let's
Hmm.
talk about it from the child standpoint. Like, how do
Yeah.
you know a kid is healing, or is at a point where like you're ready to discharge them? Like, they can come
Yeah.
less often, or
Hmm.
just can move on
A,
from
a
that.
lot of a lot of what I see is just um, their ability to start to regulate their emotions better. When they start using their coping skills without having to kind of be prompted, right, or reminded of their skills. I worked with a lot of kids who really encourage foster families, bio parents, to utilize like calm down corners or things like that. And a lot of schools are starting to do that too. And um, when you see kids just start to use those things on their own, like going to their calm down corner when they're feeling upset about something, or opening up and finding an adult that they can trust and just start to talk about how they're feeling rather than um, just typically we see it come out as anger. So,
Yeah.
throwing things, breaking things,
Mhm.
when it becomes that they're expressing that, hey, I'm feeling upset or I'm feeling sad, instead of turning to breaking things or just shutting down, which is another thing that we often see.
Yeah.
Um, but that's how and I've seen that a lot. I've seen kids really turn it around and start to utilize those skills that we try to teach in sessions. So
No, that's great.
yeah.
No, thank you. That's
Hmm.
awesome. Like, um, that suffering in silence, or like lash or extreme of lashing out, like
Yeah.
finding like they can find their voice
Yeah.
and express themselves in a way that's well but balanced and healthy
Hmm.
for everyone involved.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's good. And unfortunately, like I'm just as you're talking, I'm just thinking of like just pointing out how big of an issue this is. Like DCFS, us, child welfare aside, like in this community, like there's
Yep.
mental health is it's always in the news. Like unfortunately, children and adults, taking their lives or like
Yep.
bullying. We've
Hmm.
seen that here
Hmm.
not too long ago. A middle schooler who um, this unfortunately happened um, to, and um, do you think that, I mean, our community in particular, like Winnebago County, is like in the right direction or coming a long way? Or is there at least, or even Illinois, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
what do you think about the community's response to like mental health?
I
Not to put you on the
it's
spot,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
just
Um,
thinking out loud.
that's it's hard to answer that. It's hard for me to pinpoint things specifically within our community that show me we're in the right direction. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think in general we're working towards that, right?
Yeah.
We're definitely not there, um, because for such a long time there's been such a stigma around mental health,
Yes.
right? Like if you're struggling or you have issues, then it was viewed as you're crazy, right? And you need to just be hospitalized or something extreme like that.
Yeah.
And the reality is all of us struggle to some
Yeah.
degree with mental health issues. If you're living life, right,
Yes.
there's struggles,
Yeah.
right? And I do think there's definitely a move towards kind of ending that stigma and
Mm-hmm.
having more acceptance of counseling being a normal thing, a regular part of health, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
talk about holistic health, counseling and mental health is a part of that. Just like going to the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
counseling can be a part of that regular thing that you do to
Yeah.
take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And I, again, I do think that we're moving in the right direction. They've, created the new hotline number, the 988 number for the suicide hotline to be able to reach help and things like that. So they're starting to implement things that make this more of awareness that this is an issue, as well as it's okay to get help and ask for help.
Oh, good. I'm not familiar with that. So instead of 911, it's you dial 988
Yeah,
or
so there used to be an actual suicide hotline number, right? But most people would have a hard time knowing that or remembering that if you do know it. So they've created 988 now as a number that you can call if you are, self-harming, feeling like you're want to self-harm or commit suicide or planning. And you can
oh,
reach out to get help. You can text it, you can call it
oh,
as
that's
well.
great. I
Yeah.
learned something new today. That's no, that's awesome.
But
I'm glad that exists.
yeah.
You
Hmm.
know, wow, so many things to say about that, or
Yeah.
but and I like that about like LSSI. It's not the only job that I've had where mental health is like an like a big part of their benefits package. But I
Hmm.
appreciate that
Yeah.
about this place in particular, where
Yes.
they have like multiple resources for getting mental health like affordably, because that's a big
Hmm.
thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's
It's
one of the biggest barriers for a lot of people, right? It's not only access to it, but being able to afford it.
yeah, because
Hmm.
it's not, especially when it's like a generational trauma plus things that have happened to you in particular or to loved ones, or there's it's one or two or three sessions is not going to cut it,
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
and to um, and having like a relationship with a therapist or like um, that's built that takes time to build the trust to
Hmm.
get to the issues, and if the finances are a barrier,
Right.
you're it's hard to even um, start something and not be able
Hmm.
to continue. So
Yeah.
um, I praise the efforts of anyone involved in breaking down those barriers for people.
Yeah.
I know I've been in therapy for
Hmm.
different things over the years, and it's helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
So I will be one more person that helps like end the stigma of
Hmm.
mental health,
Hmm.
because um, it's too important um, of an issue to
Yes.
not take serious.
Right.
And yeah, and speaking of like stigma and raising awareness, unfortunately, we're trying to get you on in May, but we're it still kind of counts.
Yeah, we can
May,
count it.
yeah, we can count it. It's still fresh June,
Yeah.
but um, May is Mental Health Awareness Month,
Yeah.
so this is
Hmm.
very fitting, extra fitting conversation.
Yeah.
And are you able to add like a little bit about what that means, or like how, um, what's the point of it? In a way?
Hmm. Hmm. Um, Again, you are putting me on the spot
Oh,
because
sorry.
I'm bad about really knowing what's out there in terms
Okay.
of bringing awareness, other
Mhm.
than we have this thing, right?
Mhm.
Um, uh, but I think the whole idea about it is, again, just letting people understand, or helping people understand that um, this is it's normal to have
Mhm.
struggles, and it should be normal to reach out and get help. That
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with going to counseling or seeking help if you're struggling,
Yeah.
and also realizing that there are resources out there.
Mhm.
And at times, yeah, it can be hard to get to those resources, whether it be a financial struggle or the availability of
Mhm.
resources, but they are still there, and we're building on that. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the highlighting that, you know, choosing a month to um, highlight that issue is like, creating that space of like, hey, me too, like,
yeah. Hmm.
oh, my kid, I support my child's mental health, or yeah, this, who doesn't have a time in their life where they can use some extra support,
Right.
you know.
Exactly.
So
Hmm.
it's all races, all socioeconomic um, backgrounds.
Yeah,
It's not
if
a
you're a human living life, you're going to be affected at
yeah,
times, and everyone needs extra help sometimes.
yeah, for sure,
Mhm.
for sure. Yeah, and I brought some fun facts because I wasn't trying to put you on the spot at all, but
No
I'm
worries,
still
it's
doing it.
okay.
I'm sorry. So yeah, looked up the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI or
Yep.
NAMI. Yeah,
Nami. Yep.
NAMI.
Hmm.
Okay, more than 6,500,000 people in Illinois live in a community without enough mental health professionals.
Hmm.
And it says the need to address access to mental health care in Illinois is urgent. Lots of calls to the suicide and crisis line, and it
Yep.
talks about that 988 number.
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
And what we talked about, cost is a prevailing factor in not receiving treatment. 1 in 999 is the ratio. It says for school psychologists to students in
Yeah.
Illinois K through 12 public schools. This is worse than the recommended ratio of one psychologist for every 500 students.
Hmm.
1 in 5 adults experience mental illness each year, and more than 1 in 20 US adults experience serious mental illness each year. Yeah, and it's just the word that word crisis is like so jarring to me.
Hmm.
It makes me a little. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's that Illinois is facing a mental health crisis. So, but
And
mhm,
I think, aside from financially, I mean, I didn't know those specific numbers. Some of those numbers are really big, but I think, aside from financial struggles for individuals reaching mental health help, it really comes down to, we even talked about this when I was in school, about you know Illinois in general is still very rural in a lot of ways, and So there's a lot of rural areas that do not have access at all to any type of social
Mm.
services or mental health services. And then the areas that we do have it in, right? There's not enough providers, right?
Oh, like
Um,
long
e-
waiting
e-
lists and
e-
things like that.
exactly. I mean, even here we have waiting lists
Mm-hmm.
from time to time to get clients in. So that is kind of the other side of the issue of there's just not enough
Yes.
providers out there and um, the facilities and things like that to help.
Yes. No,
Mhm.
that's so true. I think that hopefully that's the reason why at least I've seen that telehealth is a big
Mhm.
thing now, not just for mental health, but for,
Yep.
physical health, for even for pet care, for so many things that they're realizing.
Yeah.
If they change the way it looks, it reaches more people just
Right.
because there's less physical, or geographic limitations.
Yes.
So
Exactly. Hmm.
I even recommended that, or the idea of that with foster care is like
Yeah.
to eliminate that barrier. It'd be nice if that could be the technology part
Hmm.
could be worked out to
Right.
reach more kids
Yeah.
or birth families. Because do you treat or, like do you do goals for adults like to work with birth parents?
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hmm. So
So
primarily work with birth parents and the youth that are in care. So and really so prior to COVID, LSSI did not even have telehealth as an option for counseling. But then obviously COVID happened and changed our world, right?
mm-hmm,
And a lot of things went telehealth and things like that, including us here. Um, and so most of my adult clients I actually see through telehealth unless they request in person and things like that. So um, that has helped in terms of reaching people, kind of like
mm-hmm.
you were talking about with transportation issues and things like that. And so that's helped in a lot of
Oh,
ways.
good. I didn't know we
Yeah,
were doing that. That
yeah,
makes me
hmm,
really happy.
yeah. Well, and that's like because of the hybrid schedule, I'm only here 2 days a week in person. So
Mm-hmm.
most of my clients are telehealth. The only ones really don't see is the kids unless they're a little bit older because that's
Yeah.
very hard
Yeah.
for them. So
Right.
and it's hard to reach them and build that
Mm-hmm.
connection with them when we're through a screen. So
Yeah. So kind of circling back, I'd like to ask the adult version
yeah.
of what I asked you about the kids counseling and what
Hmm.
that looks like. Um, what's a common like treatment goal for adults, and how do you know that they're
Hmm.
making progress or implementing those goals in their
Yeah.
life and their parenting?
Um, I mean, honestly, I guess I'll talk about two treatment goals. And number one is we always focus on parenting typically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so just finding ways to help them build attachment with their kids and things like that so they can build on that relationship when their kids hopefully return home. So that's usually a big one, right? And then another treatment goal that's pretty common and really in line with the kids too is that emotion regulation piece. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I see it both here and in private practice that a lot of adults struggle with that too, right? Um, of finding appropriate ways to deal with the emotions that we're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so progress, right, or success looks very similar as well of um, being able to communicate better about how we're feeling and communicate what we're dealing with, what we're going through. For a lot of the adults that I work with, we see a lot of DV and things like that. So working on boundaries and setting boundaries and being able to stick to those and understand why they're necessary. And not even in intimate relationships, but even with family members and things
Mm-hmm.
like that too. Um, so same thing though. Progress looks like them being able to start implementing that in their life
Uh-huh.
and turn their life around. One client that I talk about with a lot of my new clients in terms of just trying to encourage them, right? And let them know that they can be a success story too is a client that um, was in a DV situation when they started with me. Um, they were able to get out of that situation, separate themselves from their partner, and I just saw them do a complete turnaround. Um, I worked with them probably a little over a year, um, but they went from being in this really abusive relationship and not feeling like there was anything wrong with the relationship, and also really had no self confidence, no self worth, and they weren't working. They pretty much really had nothing, and they were
Mm.
relying on this partner that was abusive.
Sure.
And they went from that to they had a job. They by the time we were ending, right, they had a job. They really worked on their self confidence. They really
Mm-hmm.
were believing in themselves and had that confidence to be able to strive and move forward. They ended up having their kids return home to
Oh,
them.
great.
They ended up being the manager of the restaurant that they got a job in. I actually saw them maybe about a year or so after I went to eat at the restaurant that they
Mm-hmm.
worked at.
Oh,
Um, they didn't even realize that that's where they were working, but
yeah.
they came up to me to let me know that they were now the manager of this restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
and told me about how well they were doing and things like that. And
Oh, I love
that
that.
one always stands out to me because I got to see them a year later and just hear
Uh-huh.
more about how well they were doing. But that's just a perfect example of how someone can go from really having nothing, right, and
Yes.
thinking they're not worth anything, and being in this abusive relationship to being able to build a life and really better themselves.
Oh, I love that. That's a
Yeah,
beautiful story.
yeah.
And how do you support them, or like how important is um expanding a person's world? Because
Hmm.
you can I think, correct me if I'm wrong, like a person can be given a lot of tools and have like the intellectual knowledge of like
Hmm.
what it says to do, but if the how important is the environment and those around you, like had should
Yeah.
that person not been with that particular um, dynamics of the abuse, the with their abuser, let's just call it what it is,
Yeah.
removing themselves from that situation was a game changer, right?
Yep. Hmm.
But adding those positive supports to
Right.
take the
Hmm.
place of it, whether
Yeah.
it's job or um, like the community
Hmm.
part,
Hmm.
family, or how do you help people that feel alone or are isolated, like start cultivating like a bigger, more healthy world for themselves, so that they have they can move on like
Hmm.
more effectively
Yeah.
into their mental health.
Um, it, obviously that's a huge piece, right? That's extremely important. If the environment is not a good one, right, or they don't have that support, it's very hard, right, for them to be able to progress forward. And it's really just encouraging that, right? It's talking about that with them. Who do you have in your life as a support, and really getting them to think about that and realize who these individuals are. I've had clients that would tell me that they have nobody, but then they would start telling me about how they're really close to their brother or they're really close to their sister, and so I would really start to explore that with them and encourage them to realize that they do have people, right, that are
Mm-hmm.
there and that care about them, and um, a lot of times it's also getting them to be okay with asking for help,
Oh, that's
because a
another
lot of
part.
time
Yes.
that's the support is there, right? But they don't want to ask for the help for lots of reasons, right?
Yes.
There's shame, there's embarrassment, right?
Yes.
There's feelings of, this is going to make me look weak if I ask
Yes.
for help.
Mm-hmm.
And just encouraging them that, again, like we've talked about, everyone needs help once in a while, and these
Mm-hmm.
people are part of their lives for a reason, and they're there to help
Mm-hmm.
you. It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
um, and so just encouraging that. I mean, part of the assessment that we do, both with kids and adults, looks at what are those strengths
Oh,
in the
yes.
individual's life. So we build those, we build off of that and build
Yeah.
conversation around that. And if they don't have that, we encourage them to find ways to find that, right? Get involved in a community group or things like that. Getting involved in church, all of these things can help.
Yeah.
And just encouraging them to do that.
Yeah, just plugging in that with that Surgeon General, the epidemic of loneliness
Yeah. Hmm.
study and findings, and it's so important to um, work on that. To I filled out that form. I've seen it just in trainings where it's like you feel it's like a diagram almost, and you
Hmm.
just like fill out. You just get a visual of what's there or not there, and
Right.
like you can kind of curate your life.
Yeah.
It's with a lot of intention and hard work, and you know um, building off the supports that you do have
Right.
and being willing to see them and tap into them is
Yes.
a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the have you seen the our door signs? There's a quote on both of our licensing office doors.
Yes. I've read them. I forgot what they said,
It says
but I've read them.
yeah, it says brew and bloom where you're planted.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is there more? I think there it says say more. I think it's um
Just like I don't
uh
know.
hold on one second. I'm gonna just because I
Okay.
here's our mission statement for our office, our little space here, and
I like it.
yeah, I didn't make
Yeah.
it up. I kind of took it from different quotes. Some of it was a personal reflection, but it says, "While the beauty is in the butterfly, the magic is in the cocoon. Brew and bloom where you're planted." I just love this so much because, you know, coffee, for example, and tea and hospitality, that is part of mental health.
Yeah.
That is part of like self care and
Hmm.
like, you could be working like a job that you may not like, or you're in a situation where it's like might not be your ideal, but finding like the beauty and
Yep.
like um, in wherever you are and making the best of what you got.
Yes.
And that's what
Hmm.
we try to do here.
Yeah.
And I think we are doing that. And so, yeah, just thought I'd share that with our viewers. Um, okay, so as we wrap up here, you were telling me some things I didn't know about you. What are your passions or hobbies, and what's one win to celebrate this month or week, personal or professional?
Passion or hobbies. I don't have a lot right now because I'm a busy single dad, but
Mm.
I'm also a foster dad, which I don't know if you know that now, but I
No,
am now.
my
Yeah, so
goodness,
I have two foster boys. So that
that's
and you know, spending time with my daughter, my biological daughter, are really my passions.
yeah.
Um, and I guess hobbies, I enjoy working on cars. I have a 1980 Camaro that right now is sitting in the garage and
Mm-hmm.
is longing to be restored. So
Oh,
hopefully we'll start that soon. Um, but I enjoy, like, even my daily driver. I try to do most of the maintenance on. I enjoy doing things like that. Um, and then a win. I'm gonna
mm-hmm.
cheat and kind of go last month if
Oh,
that's okay.
yeah. Hey, if I've
Because
had people go way
okay.
back, so you're good.
Well, this is kind of a building on thing, but
Uh-huh.
I recently just took my clinical exam and passed, so I have my full clinical
Yay!
license now.
Get
Yeah,
it. Put it
yep,
here.
yeah. So
Yes.
I am working on becoming fully independent in private practice and switching practices. So I'm in the middle of doing all of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a huge win for me right now that I'm really in the middle of still working on. So
Oh, nothing like extra mouths to feed to
yeah,
get your butt in gear and extra motivated, huh?
yes, yeah, absolutely.
Aw.
Yeah,
Well, exciting things.
yeah.
Wow. Um, I love this for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I love this conversation. I
Yeah.
know there was excitement in the office about you specifically being on and people wanting to get to know you.
Okay. All right.
And yeah, and seeing, what you had to say. So
Yeah.
I love this topic and put myself out there personally. It's, take one for the team, I
Yeah.
guess. But yeah, thank you.
Well,
This was a lot of fun.
yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me join you, and
Hmm.
it's really cool that you're doing this. I like this. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, please share it with people and
Yep.
hopefully it's nothing but good is going to come out of these talks,
Yeah,
and it's a lot of fun.
yeah,
So until the
for
next
sure.
time, bye.
Bye.